What's up, everybody? Welcome to a new show where we get to find out a little bit more about what went into capturing a photo. So this is the first one of these I'm recording, and I'm really happy and excited to have Caleb Hoover here. How's it going, Caleb?
Things are going well. It's an honor to be here.
Excellent, excellent. Yeah, thanks for doing the first one of these. And what a first one to go with here. We've got this beautiful Prothonotary Warbler. So let's take a look at that and dive into that. All right, Caleb. So tell us how it went, man. What's the first thing you did to find and photograph this bird? Because here's what I want everybody to realize. You don't just generally walk out into the forest and grab a shot like this, do you, Caleb?
I mean, at least for this one, it took a little bit of time. Definitely a little bit of thought process, a little bit of, well, really, it was 2 years worth of prothonotary work that went into it.
Nice.
But yeah,
So what was the start with it? What was the first thing that kicked off the evolution of getting to this point?
so I would start the story by going back to 2022 in the springtime. I first moved up to Tennessee. I I've lived in Florida for the last 12 years, and
Okay.
where I lived, I had never really gotten a good opportunity to shoot prothonotaries. Always wanted to. Dream species. I heard they were up by Tampa, but never had the chance to. Um, I was I had never seen their proper habitat.
Okay.
Never really got to. I just suspected that I just lived in the part of Tennessee that didn't have them. Like I
Oh, okay.
accepted my
Gotcha.
fate. Now, one day I had this kind of isolated off the books birding spots. A few duck hunters. I'm kind of in a small town here in Tennessee. A few
All
duck
right.
hunters knew about it. Not super well managed, but one day I was birding that, and I don't know my warbler calls anywhere near as well as I should. I never had breeding warblers in Florida,
Sure.
but I heard the call. They have a very iconic call, as you well know. It's a
Yes.
very once you hear it, once you know it, you remember it. So I hear this call, and I didn't own waders at the time, but a decent part of this location was these flooded gum tree swamps, as you're seeing here in the picture. It's a very
Yeah.
unique habitat. It's not the
Beautiful.
cypress swamps you'd expect. Yeah, so like early season, you get this nice budding and such, but early season didn't have waders, and I just caught a glimpse of the Prothonotary warbler, and I'm
Did you?
like, no way. But they were in deep in the swamp, and I could
Yeah.
only walk the edges of it. No boardwalks or anything. So I ended up buying a pair of waders, started going out into the swamp, photographing them. First year, I got a few images. Long story short, the second season rolls around, 2023, and I finally get the chance to use my mid range on it. And finding their nest is a bit of a story in itself,
Yeah.
which we'll jump into.
Just to show off that habitat a little bit more for everybody to see.
In
I
that
mean,
early morning light.
it's so beautiful. I love being in swamps like that. Just it's a straight up flooded forest. It's so cool. Awesome.
I don't see a lot of that. Like even where I'm at, this is the only spot I can really find
Is
that
it?
type of. They call it a gum tree swamp.
And it's not
Beautiful
that
though.
way all the time, is it, with the water?
No, that's a cool thing. Is like wintertime. Just a few months ago, it's like another world. You're walking around, no real undergrowth,
Yeah.
just leaf litter, great salamandering. I found
Okay.
a marbled salamander in this habitat once.
Nice.
Just where it was flooded, where it was normally 4 feet deep, there was nothing. It's really unique
It
to
is
scout
wild.
during that time.
Yeah, definitely. So next up, you start like you already photographed it once with the telephoto. That was the start, right?
Yeah, start with telephoto, of course, because that's a go-to. You get a new species, you wanna telephoto it, you wanna just get a nice tight portrait.
For sure.
But that interest soon left.
Yeah.
I find myself leaving my 500 millimeter in the car a lot
Yeah.
now, especially when you find. So apparently, them and Lucy's warblers are like the only two cavity nesting warblers in North
Gotcha.
America.
Yep.
So what a cool thing to showcase, you
No
know.
doubt.
And since they're so low, I figured I had to see if I could pull something off with a
Yeah.
wide angle or a mid range.
And so this
So a
nest
little more
cavity right
habitat
here,
wise.
was this when did you find this? Was this year one or is this year two?
So this one's still up, and they still check it every year. The annoying thing is, they'll check multiple sites. So this pair, for example, would, I mean, every pair have worked, but this one, they probably went through 3 or 4 different nest sites. The
Wow.
male go in, and he'll go in and out of the nest, make these chip calls, and do this little flight display, and then the female will come darting across the forest. And it's kind of cool because they're a little bright yellow little ball of flames
Yeah.
hurling towards you. So she'll come in, she'll check it out, she'll go in and out maybe like a couple times. So you're thinking that's the nest.
Yeah.
That's got to be it. And they'll do it again and then again until you really don't know where the nest is. So in this photo that I was able to get, the female's carrying a little bit of moss. And that moss is kind of the indicator of which
Yep.
nest they choose. It's like they start bringing that special moss that grows in the bottom of the tree. You sort of see it in these photos here. So this is one of their decoy nests that I wasted a lot of time with the year. That's just been a pleasure.
Yeah.
So I wasted some time with the decoy until I finally found that new site, which was kind of
Gotcha.
like underneath a log, which was weird.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, very cool. And then you got another perspective here. And then I think I missed a photo. Yeah, I was just going to say, let me jump back to this because I know you were mentioning this right before we hit record here.
Yeah. So there's on average maybe each year 4 or 5 pairs in the area.
Okay.
Strictly territorial.
Yeah.
So you've got different sections where you can find that one pair. Now, this pair was kind of in the middle of all the other pairs.
Oh, okay.
But they're all beautiful birds. But finding this one was like, I have to photograph it. Like, I don't care if it's a more skittish individual, if its
Yeah.
nest is uglier, it has a red face. Like, I can't not. I've never seen anything like that. When I first saw it, I figured it had apparently, I think in South America, they do have some of a berry diet, and it had just arrived. Like every year, I've got it timed to where I can pretty much
Yeah.
arrive when the prothos arrive. So I figured it had just come from South America. It has like berries on its face, maybe, and it must have gotten into something
Yeah.
just with the placement of the red. But time goes on, and I realized that it's not fading off, and that this red is. So I kind of kept it to myself for a while. I figured it was just dirty.
Yeah.
But turns out it is avian chromatid disorder, which affects the red, yellow, and like orangey pigments in birds.
Okay.
Kind of makes it flare up in certain areas.
Fascinating.
So I don't know if it'll last its whole life, and if it'll stay with the red, or if the red will kind of change in positions or expand or
Yeah.
go
Interesting.
back.
And you've only photographed this individual as far as you know the 1 year, correct? Like last year.
Just last year. Didn't know it existed the year before. Maybe it didn't.
Yeah.
Could have been a
So that'll be
juvenile from the last
fascinating this
clutch.
coming year to see if it comes back.
I'm really excited.
Yeah, no
I
doubt.
have, yeah, a little under a month, and I'll be back out there looking for them.
Definitely. All right, so you finally find where the female settles in on the nest. And here, I'm just going to play this video here. It's a great example of just that area, showing off that. And you get to hear that song. It's just such a wonderful thing to hear that song for. And I'm sure you've experienced it because you've been closer. So loud, like such a loud song from a little bird, right?
Piercing is just about the best
Really?
word I could think of.
Yeah.
And these pairs are, I mean, there's a few more skittish pairs, but like this one, and then it's one neighboring pair.
Mm-hmm.
Extremely tame. I mean,
Nice.
they were just a pleasure to work with.
That's so cool, man.
Plus, I'm up in my waders, like up to my chest in water, so I'm not as much of a silhouette as I
Yep.
would be.
Totally.
So plus I can't see my feet, so I'm walking super slow.
Yeah.
So I'm just not really a threat to them at all, which is nice.
Yeah, definitely. All right, so you got the nest cavity. You find out where they are. How does this photo come about?
So I've always been a fan of the wide angle look. I purchased a Tokina 11 to 20 millimeter to capture wide angle images, but
Yeah.
what I was finding with this pair is there wasn't a good place to put the camera I tried a bunch of angles. This pair, they were a little more skittish of it too.
Yeah,
So I realized that I couldn't use it. I couldn't use it remotely. So that was kind of off the table. I was a little bummed about that, and I was
sure.
kind of resorting to telephoto for a while. I was shooting a morning and evening for like a few weeks,
Okay.
but I kind of realized that yeah, I wasn't sure what to do. I was couldn't use a wide, and the scene wasn't super. It wasn't lush with green yet.
Yeah.
It just kind of looked ugly, and the telephotos I really couldn't get anything I liked. So my mid range was my knight in shining armor here. It's a 70 to 300 millimeter. It's an older
Nice.
mid range,
Yeah.
but thing's an absolute tank. I mean, solid metal construction. It's beautiful. Now, so I started using that. I realized that I could, with how tame the Prothonotaries were, I could quite easily get within the right range and capture a scene with enough blur that kind of it just worked really well with the scene,
Yeah.
with the habitat, with the density of foliage.
So this is camera
But
in
the only
hand.
issue, yeah, in hand.
Oh, so cool. I thought for sure this was a remote. So very cool.
It is cropped in a tiny bit.
Yeah, not much, but no, this is great.
Yeah, for these prothos, I couldn't walk in when they were coming by the nest because they're a little skittish around the nest.
Hmm.
And the plan was so my thought in my head as I was going to get there, I was going to drape myself in like camouflage netting to sort of break up my silhouette, kind of look
Yeah.
like more of a stump, I guess. And then I would hold up my camera, I'd get my composition, and I'd wait, and I'd shoot around 70 to 100 millimeters or so. And the idea was to get one protho coming in to feed the babies or to just come in and out. I wasn't sure what I was going to get. And what happened was the male comes in, the red faced male, which you can sort of see up there in the back. It doesn't really
Right back
register
here.
as well, but he comes in, he lands on that perch, which actually broke off like halfway through the season. So
Oh,
I got a little fortunate there. I don't know what happened. Just kind of like
yeah.
one day it was there, next day it was gone. So he comes in, he flies to that next perch up there on top and sits there.
Yep.
And I'm like, this isn't really a shot. I'm just waiting. I didn't capture him, but I had my camera up and ready. Then the female comes over. She lands. I capture something for on the stick, but like she's on a stick.
Yeah.
Those images weren't really doing it for me. She kind of looks around and she hops up, and I was able to. So I just kind of rapid fired,
Yeah.
hoping to get something. Her feet ended up being a little blurry, and so were the wing because I wasn't really prepared. It was early in
Yeah.
the morning too. But I took that picture, and I had figured that by the time she came in and did that, I'm looking at the picture. I didn't realize the male was still up there.
Ah.
I'm like, so I'm looking at the picture, and I'm like, I got the moss,
Yeah.
I got action, and I got the male. Like,
Incredible.
I have, yeah. So, I mean, that was more or less just chance, not even the plan,
Yeah.
but kind of came together really well. And I guess sometimes stuff like that happens.
It sure does, man. So it brings up, I have a few questions before we talk about the edit that you did on this photo as well, just to wrap up the story. So great job, number one. Just kind of, I can really tell how much time you spent with them, how much you've learned about their behavior, and all of that allows you to get in here. The question I have is, what made you stand at this angle for this shot? Because one of the things I really, really love about this shot, Caleb, is how well this stump actually integrates and pulls you into the scene. What you have here is a bunch of wonderful angles. We have this branch coming in from the bottom right corner, this branch coming back into the left, but then like the main thing here, just sort of leading us back into the scene, pulling us into that swamp. And then of course the secondary male bird back there. So all of that is to say, my question is, do you remember what made you determine like this angle? Was it the perch and all of that, or was that the only angle where the female or like the nest cavity was accessible? What was that for you?
Yeah. So there was a bit of a thought process that came into it just because I had time. Um, they they were doing back and forth. I mean, they do back and forth when the babies are young. They'll for nest building. So I mean, I had a lot of
Yeah.
opportunities to get this shot. So the area around them was clear. I had tried different angles. Like you said, wide angles. I mean, I've taken so many wide angles that just feel so flat. Like it feels
Yeah.
like the bird is photoshopped into the front of the
It
photo.
totally looks like that. That's what happens. Yeah.
Like a, oh,
Yep.
drives me crazy. Just absolutely the bane of my existence. Foreground
Yeah.
is just so important. But yeah, so with this one, I'm thinking with the issues with the nest, it was up underneath.
Gotcha.
And I wasn't sure which, I knew she was going to come in from that side.
Yeah.
She was going to land on that and then like go under somehow. Um, where she's kind of pointed now isn't really where the nest is. It was kind of like up underneath a
Oh,
little bit.
okay.
So she
Fascinating.
actually kind of dropped up under.
Yep.
Now, I had tried different angles, but in the end, leading lines for the win,
Yeah.
something that I use my LCD a lot. It's very scratched up, but I still use it. And I try to hold my camera out and just kind of watch as things are progressing. I'll kind of shift around. So I had a few minute increments when they were gone, then I could do
Mm-hmm.
that.
Yeah.
And being able to kind of lead down, I didn't want to cut off the bottom or the
Yep.
top. I wanted to capture that stick and kind of like I wanted to get her in that zone there. Whether
Yeah.
she was my original idea was perched, but I wanted to
Well,
get her
this
in
is
that
better.
region. Well, thank you.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, the action coming in like that is just so good. So, yeah, that's awesome, dude. Well, well done. I can really see the thought went into it because of all of that stuff, and it really pays off in multiple ways. You have such a great empty zone back here without any distractions behind her, and then like I said, it really sucks you into the scene, and more importantly, like we were saying, those two-dimensional ones that feel flat, they feel so cut out, but this connects every piece of the photo together and into the background and all of that, and so it works really well. All right, so next up, I want to talk about the edit on that, which you did very little here. So here's straight out of camera. So thanks for sharing that with us. This tells a lot here. And then we go from this straight out of camera to this. So not too much there. Just tell me a little bit about what you were thinking with what the goals were with that edit, just to make this photo kind of its final version.
I took the picture and I figured, I don't know what I was thinking, but I did include that strange stump on the left side.
Sure.
I figured step one, I'm cropping that out.
Yep.
It was there's no real discernible like level. I mean, you can get
Correct.
pretty close, but no real horizon. Everything's kind of staggered. So that was more or less of a judgment
Yep.
decision there. But really, the Protho didn't stand out as well as it should, male or female. That was priority number one, was to make them pop. So I brought out her colors. I richened up the greens too. I didn't like the tone of the greens, kind of, whereas you have the light spots of the light coming through and then the shadows, kind of trying to level those a little bit.
I can
bring
see
those
that.
together, kind of make it a little softer, And then I did a couple of, I get really nitpicky with my cloning. Like, something might not need to be cloned, but I'll clone it. Like, for instance, at the end of that perch, the one she's jumping from. Oh, yeah. There.
Oh, yeah, I see this here. Yep,
end.
I gotcha.
And then up top, in the top of that, of the large main piece,
Yep.
I cloned out a section, which totally didn't need to go. That was, I could have gone without.
I gotcha.
I couldn't help myself. And a couple of things in the water.
Yep. Basic stuff, though.
Yeah, you want to control as much as you can.
Yeah.
But really bring out the female, because they're a little duller anyways,
Correct. Yep. And she's underneath the light, like she's under the shade of that heavy log, right? And then naturally, like this bare wood right here is brighter, so burning that down was key. Toning down like a couple of those spots getting caught with the sun back there. But I have to say, other than like if you went back and forth, of course, then you start being able to pick out, okay, this was like removed and touched. without seeing the original, what a natural edit. It looks really good. It's a really nice balance and one that just looks and feels very natural. So I love everything
Thanks.
that you did with the edit. It's a great job. This photo is stunning all around. It's been great to hear everything that went into this. Before we wrap it up, is there anything else you want to add to the story of capturing this photo, Caleb?
Capturing their swamp it's just such a unique habitat to
Yeah.
capture. But you know, it doesn't let a lot of light in. So, I mean, looking back, I would say that I would have raised the shutter. Um, Kids, if you're out there, always sacrifice the light a little bit. Don't let them get blurry. But so she has a little bit of blur, but all in all, it was got really fortunate. Really, really a beautiful scene. I'll be back out there real soon. Hopefully to top it if possible.
So I'm really looking forward to seeing what you continue to come up with, Caleb. Thank you again for taking the time to join me to share the story behind this photo. It's a stunning photo. As soon as you shared it with me, I was like, yeah, I want to hear about that. So thanks so much, Caleb, and happy shooting out there, man.
Thank you. It's been a pleasure.